Well, hello everyone and welcome to Painless Universal Conversation with myself and Welsh. We'll be talking to my guest today about sickle cell pain. She was diagnosed at a tender age of, very young. I think she's about 2 years old when she diagnosed. Comes from a family where she has four siblings who are sickle cell and the rest are sickle cell traits. As you know, or whoever don't know, sickle cell is a genetic blood disorder which affects you and give you lots of pain. I myself suffer from sickle cell and have had the challenges since I was a young girl. She'll be telling us about how she's overcome the challenges of living with sickle cell from being from Cameroon and living across the world, and how she's managed to make that make sickle cell known and help make sickle cell a clear thing on her agenda, and her plans to make Africa, her home continent, more aware about the illness, where it's more prevalent, and find a cure of dealing with sickle cell. Meet my guest, Chantal, as she shares her story. Well, hello again, everyone, and welcome to Painless Universal. As I said in my introduction, today's topic is about sickle cell pain and the challenges of dealing with it. My guest has not only dealt with sickle cell pain, but she's also shining a big spotlight on sickle cell from her various work. She's the interim communication officer at African Sickle Cell Alliance. She'll be telling us about her own journey and how she's helping shine a spotlight on an illness that many should know about, but very few do. And Chantal, how are you?
I'm very, very well. Thank you so much, Anne. I hope I should be calling you Anne. So we are Annes. Oh, two Annes.
Yes.
That's great.
It's a beautiful.
Though mine got a Chantal on the back of it.
Yeah.
Well, the joy of having two godmothers who were battling for who should give the name. But I'm very fine. Thank you. And thank you for having me on your show. It's a pleasure to be able to talk about one of my passions, which is talking about sickle cell disease. It's something I think if you pinch me in the morning and you say, "Oh, how are you?" I just thought, yeah, what's your status?
I know. It's one of those things you need to keep talking about. I think the only way there'll be more words and more understanding about sickle cell is if more and more people keep talking about it. But what fascinates me, you're joining me from France now. We're having this conversation, so this is wonderful because it shows how diverse and how global this illness is, and many people still don't know about it. But before we get into sickle cell, can you tell me a little bit about who are you?
So, Chantal I am a journalist, youth development mentor, I would say budding writer, though I've never gotten the courage to actually bring out anything I've written. It's still in the shelves of my house. I am I'd say a lover of people and a daughter of God.
That's beautiful.
And I am a child from a family of 6, origin from Cameroon, and with 3 siblings who are warriors. So including myself, that makes 4. So a family of 4 warriors and 2 trade persons. And I'm a fighter. I am a mother and a wife.
Wow.
And somewhere in between, I'm a student because I still learn and I still study. And like you said in the introduction previously, I worked with the Africa Sickle Cell Alliance. Unfortunately, the initiative closed down. And I'm now acting as a consultant for UMASCO, that's Umoja Africa Sickle Cell Consortia. And I am a communications consultant who is there open to help young people, old people, organizations in any way they may want. And I work particularly pro bono with lots of sickle cell groups and associations back in Africa. Here in France, I was previously a communications person for the French Federation for Sickle Cell and Thalassemia Patient Associations. They're now too many things on my plate, so I had to drop down to a volunteer for them. So I volunteer and I assist them in their communications whenever the need arises. So long and short, that's me. That's Chantal, warrior.
It's amazing. But one thing you did say, and I picked up on it right away, was that you come from a family where there are 4 of you with sickle cell, diagnosed with sickle cell.
Yes.
The other 2 are sickle cell traits.
Yes.
Anyone who hears this will be absolutely baffled by this. But I'm thinking, oh my goodness, how could they have this many people in their family dealing with sickle cell? Can you tell me what was growing up like as a child?
I'd say it was rock and roll. It had those moments when you have 4 of us in a hospital ward, and my mom would say, you know what, guys, I'm tired. I need to sleep. So think of something nice, think of something positive, and try to find that inner peace and rest, because I just can't go on. I'm going to crash. And she would sleep, and would sit there and chat, all 4 of us in one hospital room. And there are days when, well, pain-free, and we are just normal kids being raised by two teachers. My dad was my principal in school. So being raised by 2 teachers who just made sure that we are like every other kid. So you get to 2nd place in class. My dad asks you have to write an essay why you are 2nd place in class, because the kid who is 1st place in class, what do they have that you don't have? You have electricity, you have this, you have that. So let me know, why did you come 2nd place? And growing up it had its hard times when those pains were there, and or sometimes you are around somebody who doesn't understand what you're going through, and you're around people who have those. Of course, you always get people who say those nasty things. But growing up was most of the times I think that's what made me become a youth mentor. It was making use of the opportunities around you. My parents taught us to be able to tap from whatever opportunities we had around us. They made us know that when it comes to strength, we don't have it, but we have strength in here. So, and to be able to have that strength in here and be able to do whatever we want later in life, they made sure we did everything. So growing up was school time, when you go to school and you always have to ace in class because your dad is your principal, and when you get out you call him sir, and when you're home you call him dad, because if you do call him sir, dad at school, you're punished, and you're punished more than everybody to set the example. And at home, you have to learn to cook, clean, wash, car wash, right? So go to the farm, cultivate crops. You need to learn to know. My parents said, if you can't have a white collar job, you need to go back to your roots, go to agriculture. You need to learn to know where what you eat comes from. So everybody did it. There were days when it's girls' days in the farm and the girls went to the farm, and it's boys' days home. We had 3 boys and 3 girls. And the boys stay home and they do the cleaning, the cooking, the washing, and everything. And there are days when we swap, and the girls stay home and we do the car wash and the shoe polishing and everything. So that was home. It was, as I said, rock and roll.
Sickle cell. People, and you talk about. I'm also diagnosed with sickle cell. I've lived with sickle cell all my life. Well, I was always shielded. I wasn't allowed to do this. And my parents always said, "She shouldn't do this. She shouldn't do this." And I never learned how to do anything until I was much older. How comes? Why was yours different? Where did your parents get that confident that it's okay to let you guys, even though you're sick in hospital, but it's still okay to let you guys still go ahead and do your normal chores?
Yeah, I think my parents came to learn that later on. I think that was about when I got past the ages of 10. So my parents learned that shielding us would really help, because when you're back in Africa and you're in a country like Cameroon, where already at that time, presently, the country has a severe crisis where I was calling it a civil war, where the English-speaking parts of the country, because part of the country was previously under the rule of the British and part under the French. So we are in the Commonwealth, and at the same time in the Francophonie. So we have parts which have the British culture and the system and the law and everything, common law and everything, and parts which is French. And now So now there's a very intense crisis with the minority English-speaking culture side wanting a break-off because they are just tired of the marginalization. And when you grow in a country like that, and that marginalization had been going on a long time ago, my parents learned you have to know how to stand up tomorrow in case anything happens to us. My mom was an orphan, and she used to tell us, you guys are my friends, my brothers, my sisters. If anything happens to me, you have to man up and chin up and take care of yourself. So you need to know what is in you. Yes, you are ill sometimes, but it's not every time. And the times you're not ill, you need to know how to do things on your own. Someday mom is not going to be there. So you need to know how to wash, to clean, to cook. You need to know how to drive. You need to know how to be able to take care of yourself. So as early as age 7, everybody had, when I was 7, I'm the 5th. So by the time I was 7 years old, my siblings were already a bit more bigger, already into secondary, high school, apart from the last. And we already had, everybody knew what they had to take at their medication. We knew meds time. Everybody knew meds time. And when it's meds time, everybody went to their little meds boxes and took off their meds and aligned them and in front of our mom and took and said, Mom, see, I'm not throwing it away, so I'm taking it. And you take it, and when she's not there, we go to our 2 siblings who are trade persons and say, oh, watch, so that nobody comes and says I threw them away. I'm taking them, and they're watching. So we knew that, and we grew with that because our parents knew that at a certain times there may be a time when something happens. They can't keep us in the house every time. I finished primary school and I had a scholarship to go to this top girls' school. But my dad said, you're not going anywhere. You have sickle cell. On top of that, you're asthmatic. I don't even want to start thinking of what will happen there in boarding school. So you're staying with me and I'm going to be your principal. If you don't like it, well, you have to just make do with it. And you're just going to make sure you are top of the class because I'm going to be seeing you all day. So 2-4 and 2-4. I'm in school with my dad. I'm at home with him. So I said, you can't get naughty. There's no way to hide for your teachers to come and tell him, Mr. Principal, your daughter is not doing this, your daughter is not doing that. And so we learned to do those things because from the age of around 3, I got a lot of don't. So, I used to love dancing. I used to love playing tennis with my parents, but all of that stopped. And from 10, my mom was like, it has to change. We can't just keep them like that. Else they'll just be there. No skills, nothing. So I started learning crochet from her. We started every year. The year always ended with the long holidays. And how long holidays was, you go back to the village, you learn about your family bloodline, you visit your cousins, you go to the farm, you learn to speak your mother tongue, you learn to cultivate crops, you learn to grate cassava, cut the vegetables, cook without gas, use firewood.
You had to learn. Your mom was determined that you would not just be, at the end of the day, whether she likes it or not, whether we all like it or not, our kids will become adults one day. And give them the basic tool to become adults.
Yes.
Become vegetable and liability to not just themselves, not just to their parents, but also society.
Yes.
I agree with what you're saying because I think it's where there's a misconception with people with chronic illness, people who go through chronic illness pain, is that the parents sometimes feel they need to be shielded, they need to not do anything, but not realizing it. Give it 20 years, give it 25 years. That kid has to be in society and has to fit in society.
You're very right. And later on, that kid is going to blame you because in shutting them down, you're blocking lots of skills that they need to test it and see if they can do it or not do it. It's better to test it and say, okay, I like dancing. Can I do it? I can. So when I get families of warriors asking me, how come you're a journalist? And when I tell them I'm a journalist, they're like, oh, you're a journalist. So how do you work? I'm like, you want to know? I can stand on heels for 6 hours in a presidential live program. Protocol requires it. I can hide. And later on, I come back, and the first thing I do is I take my painkillers. I make sure I'm warm so that I know that what I did for 6 hours won't fall back on me. And I make sure that I do my work as per my strength. I know when to say stop. I work like a crazy person, but sometimes my colleague would see me and I'll just tell them, you know what? Aunt Chantal is on slow-mo. And when I'm on slow-mo, nobody can get me to run. So I am there, 7 a.m. newscasts, primetime newscasts. That's when I was still doing a live audiovisual, working in the audiovisual sector. I was there, crisis communications, I'm dodging those bullets. But when it's time to just slow down, I slow down. And I made my colleagues to know it. It hurts me when sometimes I see, or it pains me when I see warriors who are afraid to speak of what they are to their employers. You can't work. You can't be yourself when you're hiding it, because you're going to just live a lie all through. You have to embrace who you are. And when you embrace who you are, then you know to live with what you have and live to the best possible way and to your fullest capacity. That's how I live. So I tell my colleagues, today, I'm doing the news. I'm doing that. Sorry, I'm not going to help you for X, Y, Z as I used to before. I'm going home at 5. So whether you have a live program, you have something, coordinator Aunt Chantal is going home at 5, and I go home, I eat, I rest, I cut off my phone, and I sleep. So I know when to stop. I don't push myself so I go beyond my limit, because when I do that, the next thing is I get into a crisis. So I always tell young warriors and even older ones who come around and say, know your capacity, know how to run. You might let your child play football if he likes football, but he may not play the whole first 30 minutes. He may play 20 or 15, depending on their strength. He may play 15 and go to the bench, and then somebody replaces him. And later on, he comes back again and play maybe 10 more minutes. He still gets to play football. So, and he builds his capacity in the long run, instead of just keeping us in. And then all of what we have to do is focus on the sickle cell, focus on it, and it now becomes like a fatality, like a death threat. And then we start internalizing all the horrors in our head. And the brain is a crazy place, and the mind, oh God, what the mind can do. It starts telling you, oh, you're going to die tomorrow, or you're going to do this. And then all of a sudden, we just become bleak. And that's how you start embracing death, even when death has not come knocking. And I just don't want to see that.
Absolutely. No, and Chantal, you're truly amazing, because you really have, you've lived it, and you've lived it not just with yourself, with your siblings as well. And you've seen that there's a way to overcome these things, and it's something you're really passionate about, because you also work all your life. You've been working and advocating, helping. So what is your key message? What do you want to achieve by all this work you're doing with this? You did with the former Sickle Cell, African Sickle Cell Alliance. You did with various people. What's your message in terms of sickle cell? What do you want people to know?
I am dreaming of the time when everyone with sickle cell disease, with sickle cell trait, everyone caring for someone with sickle cell disease, everyone in a community where there are people with sickle cell disease would, first of all, know about it. And second of all, speak in one voice. Knowing about it makes us know that we can't put culture into it. In Africa, you see parents who have killed their children because culture tells them these children are snakes, they are this, they are that. I've had people tell my mom, oh God, you have 4 of them. Why don't you go and put them in some river? And my mom said, what's your damn business? Are you the one who bore them 9 months? I did. And, you have all of that. We need to speak and know about it. And so we keep culture aside. We have lovely cultures, but culture has nothing to do with sickle cell, not even an iota of it. But we have to use culture to make people know about sickle cell. Let's teach sickle cell even in our culture, in our songs. It's not something that you'd made an error to have it. It runs in your gene. You don't select who is your father and who's your mother. In our villages, you say you don't select where you come from. You don't select your bloodline. It's there. You have to deal with it. And we have to reach that level where we know about it. There's a saying in my village that when you know what something is, you know how to fight it. You know how to walk with it. We need to know about it. And then now we need to have one voice to speak about it and teach people about it, so that's the only way we can work together. I love what I see. So many advocates. There was a time when sickle cell advocacy was so scarce in the 80s and 90s. Thank God for internet, and that's made people to start talking about it, and I'm talking about it on different platforms, and you get to see people talking about it. There was a time when when I started doing advocacy back in Cameroon, every World Sickle Cell Day, journalists would come to me, and I told them, hey, colleagues, you know what? I'm not the only person who you should be speaking to. There's this lady in this place I met the other day. There's this other person in this day I went to do a report and I met the other person. Go and talk to them. My own story is there, but their own story is different. We all have sickle cell, but the stories are different. Get to know about it on a big picture, and then we can know how to fight it. My big dream is to see every sickle cell action be fused into one, to the point where, I don't know, we'll have some huge sickle cell one voice organization that can sit and tell World Health Organization or tell UN or tell, all the big pharmaceutical companies that we want a vaccine. We want that. That can sit and tell our governments, you know what, if you don't make sickle cell a public health priority like the UN says you should, well, we won't do this or we won't do that. That's my dream, because sickle cell has been there for years, and it's sickening that diseases that have just been discovered a couple of years ago are getting data and research and all, and sickle cell is there in the shadows. It is still in the shadows in 2021. It was in the shadows in 1980 when I was born. It's 41 years down the line since I was born, and it's still in the shadows. My God, so my daughter would grow up and it was still in the shadows. I don't want her to grow. Let her grow up and know that mommy tried, and with all the people around, sickle cell moved from the shadows, and okay, it went to top shelf, maybe right, not up to roof level, but top shelf. But if it goes to roof level, that would be super. And then I'll go back and meet my maker and say, oh, maker, I did my own. Now, over to the others. No, that's my big dream.
That is, and that is achievable. I think it's something that we all have to unite together. So, sickle cell individuals, sickle cell organizations, something we just have to put aside egos and put aside working in silos, and just say we want to come together. But one common mission is to create an awareness towards sickle cell, and
certainly,
and that's truly possible. But the problem I have with not just sickle cell, I think it's also the healthcare system. How did you overcome this challenge of dealing with the healthcare system in Africa, in particular, when you were growing up in Cameroon? How was that for you? And what's your mission in improving that line of health?
Well, when it comes to healthcare system, it is a challenge that you take it on a day-by-day basis. You first of all, when we were growing up, my mom knew that if we only have to depend on the hospitals, there will be times when you wouldn't get what you really need. So her first lesson to us was try your best not to trigger a crisis. So don't go across that limit that you know that when you do stuff, it triggers a crisis. Don't expose yourself to cold. Wherever I'm going, it's crazy how childhood things would stick on. But whenever I'm traveling, my hand luggage I'm always fighting in airports because of my bottle of water and my sweater. Whether I'm going to a hot place or not, I just say, just in case the weather shifts. My mom is always telling us, it's true, you don't control when you get sick, but make sure you try your utmost best to avoid all the triggers. So don't go beyond your capacity. Do what you have to do. So we do farm work. We go to the farm when I'm working or when any of us is working, and you start feeling like, okay, now it's time to sit down. She doesn't even ask twice. we had to construct a little hut in the farm, because once it's just time to, she just turns and she knows who is going to sit down. And then she's like, are you okay? Do you need anything extra? A little massage, some water, something else? I mean, like, Mom, no, I'm fine. Good. And when 10 minutes down or 20 minutes down, she sees you come back, like, are you sure that rest was enough? I think you should get some more. Your other siblings would continue. And that's how we did. So it's try to avoid the triggers as much as you can. Now, when you've done that, and say when you've done your part now on the healthcare, we of medical doctors, be friends with them. Yeah. Be friends with your carers, your doctors, your nurses, because sometimes there are things that it's not every day that you go to hospital. There are things that you can deal with in the house, but they are the ones that teach you those little things. So we knew at age as early as like 13, 12, I knew certain things, how I could manage some crisis in the house. I knew when it's a crisis that needs hospital and it's a crisis that doesn't need hospital. There are times when I'm hurting and I just go and I take my painkillers, I look for deep heat, or I massage the joints, I tie bandages all around where it hurts, I put on my sweater, my joggings, and I make sure I'm warm, and I sit in my corner. My parents know that there is something happening. And all they ask is it hospital time? And I say, no, it will pass. Yeah. Yeah. But when it's that time, when I just go and say, hospital.
Exactly.
No. They know. And also when we get there, the doctors already know us. They know the case, they know the history, and they know how to deal with it. So that was how we could manage. Because sometimes there were times when there were no drugs. It's rainy season, the roads are blocked, it's all muddy. Medication cannot come to the town where we are. So you find yourself having to, I've had times when they've taken an injectable and broken it and given it to me instead of tablets, because the tablet version is not available. What do? You walk around it and you try as much as possible to stay alive. So you try your best not to get those triggers. You surround yourself with doctors. You get as many different opinions as you could get, and you eat well. My dad was all about food. Eat well, rest well, nutritious food. My dad would have this saying, he was always like, green vegetables and fruits and liquids are good for you. He's always encouraging us, eat green, eat this, eat that. And it's true, because when you eat well and you're healthy and you try as much as possible to avoid the stress, all the things that may trigger, you have those crises that would maybe a mild pain here and there, but it's not going to become something chronic or just develop into something out of the blue, except if maybe there's some complication that's building there and you don't know about it, but at least you get to manage it. And so that's how we managed our health, and all four of us.
Yeah.
Till university, and then we lost a sibling final year university to medical error. There again, you see the health side coming in, because and that's where the talking about sickle cell comes in, because even though we surround ourselves with the doctors and we teach them, but it's not every medical person around who would want you to teach them or to talk to them about you and something that they already know. And then there's those chances when what they think they know is not exactly your case, and then errors happen. A little injection here which is not supposed to go, a little something here, and life goes. So we are now just three of us, and mothers and fathers sitting back now and looking at it and laughing. And now when the pains come and you just WhatsApp the other person, I'm like, I am in crisis, but no need to worry, everything is going on fine. And you're like, okay, I hope the kids are okay. Yes, I hope the wife is okay or husband is okay. Good, they're not stressed about you getting ill. Yes, fine, just keep us informed.
No, that's I think I have to really applaud your work. Before I let go of you, and because I will have to ask you, most people do not believe they can go on to have kids, they could get married, they could do have a career. How have you been able to achieve all of this, but despite having sickle cell, and not just yourself, but just simply having sickle cell? How have you been able to achieve all of this?
I think it's just in believing that and saying to yourself, before sickle cell, I'm a human. And like every human, I want everything that humans are supposed to have. A good life. If it comes with a great house, nice. Flashy car, nice. If it comes with a sweetheart, cool. Kids, better. Aspire to be like everybody else. I don't put sickle cell there in my head like a bridge. It's all of me. So I don't separate it like there is Aunt Chantal sickle cell and Aunt Chantal not sickle cell. There's just Aunt Chantal. And in the whole of Aunt Chantal, there is sickle cell in it. And this Aunt Chantal with the sickle cell have to move forward. And we have to go to school. We have to dream. I sat when I was in school and Christiana Mampo, and I was like, I want to be like her. Cool. I want to be like her. I want to work like her. And then after that, it's some other person. You get to a level and Oprah. You dream. We have to dream. And when I was working with the Advocacy Alliance several times with other advocates that I've met and I've had to exchange with family, I'm like, we need to create, I don't know if I'll call it programs and events and things where we showcase warriors, trade persons who are doing it well in life. Everybody needs a role model. Everybody needs that Amampo to look at and say, oh, I want to be like her. Oh, I want to do this. So we need that. And that's how I live every day. I am like, I've been telling my friends and I've been telling everybody, I want to be first female UN Secretary General.
Possible.
And they're like, why? I said, so that I could be able to sit up there and tell them, okay, you know what? The group of illnesses that you guys have forgotten, let's put sickle cell somewhere in that list. And there's this, and there's that, and there are this, and there are these things, and bring my own little contribution to making the world a better place. And when I say, people are like, you're crazy. I'm like, no, I'm not. And I'm working on it. I started as a journalist. I did radio journalism, newspaper. I moved to TV. And from TV, I moved to corporate. And I went to diplomatic communications and policy work. And now I'm doing consultancy in international communications. And I'm like, I'm working towards it. That's my goal. And we need to do that. Before being warriors, we are people. We are men, women with dreams, with aspirations. What is your dream as a person? Do you want to be that entrepreneur? Work towards it. When there is no pain, sit down. My dad used to always tell us, where do you want to be in 2 years? After every 2 years, we'd have a meeting. Yeah, it was normal in the house. Eve of the year, just before we say, oh, Happy New Year, we'll have a family meal and we'll sit. And my dad would say, so in 2 years, where do you want to be? And you tell him and you write it down. And 2 years later, he's going to ask the same question. So you said you want to do this. Have you gone that level? How far have you gone? What has slowed you down? What's the next step? And I continued with that. I kept on asking myself that. Now I'm here. Next thing, what do I want to be? Well, now I'm a communications person. Maybe I want to get my way in some top organization where I'll start now I've seen how policy and laws and things are done. I've reported them as a journalist. Then I came and I worked on them on how it is implemented. And now I take that knowledge and I want to see how we can go further on, not just on country level, but on international level, on multi-country level. And that's how I'm going. And that's how every warrior should dream, to go one step at a time, Because I tell everybody that I meet that, okay, if you don't have sickle cell, some other people don't have sickle cell, but they have some other thing. It might be a headache, it might be migraine, it might be asthma, it might be tummy aches, it might be cramps. They all have their days when they have that sleeping day when it's not working, it's not going on. So yours is sickle cell. When that time of pain is over, or during that time of pain, instead of focusing on the pain and concentrating on it, shift it somewhere in some corner and bring in the positive. Dream of how far you've come, where you were, and how far you've come, and what you want to be. And then now, when the pain is over, look for your notebook and write. I'm this level. I want to go this level. Who am I supposed to meet? What kind of friends am I supposed to have? What kind of networks am I supposed to network with? And that's how I move every day.
That's so good. No, and Chantal, I really applaud your efforts and in spreading the awareness, in keeping sickle cell so relevant. People like you make it seem, and we can all do it. You're not just a talker, you're actually a doer, which is something so important in today's world. So many people say it can be done, but it's not represented in their own being. And you have clearly demonstrated it can be done. And I just listening to you.
It's very important. I am teach what I preach.
Yeah.
So, because, when you're young, you learn from seeing what is happening around you. And when you start getting older, you're like, oh, people are looking at me. So let me not think that I'm doing this and nobody is seeing. Somebody is seeing. And you won't want to sit there on that bad day when somebody will bring the dirt up and say, oh, you're teaching this and what's happening to you? Where are you? They've been, for the past like a year and a half, I moved to France and I was like trying to get into the system, break into the system and actually continue from where I left off with my career. And I was like, oh, it's so hard. And I had to sit at a certain time and say, hey, you've been teaching young people how to, move in their career and go corporate and go from country to country. Now, look at your notes. What are you doing wrong? What is slowing you down? Where are you not succeeding? And there was a time when I didn't care. I knocked at doors. I called on friends. I'm like, you've been in Europe for how many years? Tell me, is there something I'm doing wrong? Because see, I've been trying to get back into a career. And it's like, is it a crime that because I took some time off to have my second baby. And I'm like, why am I not able to get back into a job? What's happening? And I was fighting myself. And I had to just tell myself, do what you used to tell the young people you mentor. Learn, ask. There's no harm in asking. So I called up a few friends. Oh, please give me some advice. What is it that these people want? What makes them tick? Do they want a French degree? Should I maybe learn something in a degree that is, do something in their language? What is it? Maybe, too much of my English speaking side is not really going very well with them. How do I want to do it? How should I do? And you get people tell you what to do. So it's something you have to just tell yourself. You're like a child. You're learning every day. No matter they say age is just a number. You may be growing older, but you're like a child sometimes, most times. And feel free to ask and call people and ask and say, feel free to first of all be honest with yourself and say, I think I'm doing this turn that I took wasn't right. Maybe I should go back 2 steps and then I take the other turn. Know when you're lost, know when to cry out for help. There's nobody that has the monopoly of knowledge and of skill and of everything. So there are times when I just start knocking at doors and I'm stuck. I need help. And I don't stop until I find an answer. I need to get an answer because I know each time I cross a hurdle, that's a hurdle less that some young person who will come to me would not have to cross. I have this mentality. I used to say, I don't believe in the things when in those days, elders would say, no, you have to do it on your own. I believe in the bridges I cross, my daughter shouldn't cross it. She should now stand upon those bridges and cross other bridges. And her children come and do that too. So I'm trying to learn to cross hurdles so that the people I talk to, the work I do, young people, old people won't have to cross those hurdles again. They would have that right. Those hurdles would be like ladders for them to climb up and cross other bridges. And they too, now somebody else will come to them. And that's how we should do it. When you're from Africa and you've had every other thing, there's so much stress in the continent, colonialism, everything. It eats up into everything. Then you come to that, in all of that cocktail, you bring sickle cell and put into it. It's like a time bomb. If you don't sort it out, you might go loco in here.
Thank you so much, Anne. I really really enjoyed talking to you. I really thank you so much for this kind message. And
it's
really
a pleasure, and it's for me to thank you. Thank you so much
speak to you again.
for having me. And well, I hope as somebody watching, somebody listening, somebody who would read out there would know they're not alone.
No.
And that, you know, we are all here. All they need to do is to just, who should I talk to? And just start with that one step. Hello. That hello is just all it takes. Hello.
Yes.
I'm living with this.
Yes.
How can you just give me advice? You know,
absolutely.
There are times when we might have the finances to help along, but we just have that ear, listening ear, or that shoulder to show, that empathy to extend, or just that story to tell that will make you feel like,
thank you.
I'm encouraged.
I really appreciate this conversation. Speak to you again soon, Anne. Thank you.